Hey guys, Melanie with Don't Get Cancer and Save the World at Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm just going back into the Q&A with Brian Clement. Let's get some more info.
Happen in a lot of different ways than you think. You don't have to have big traumas to have post-traumatic stress. I'll give you a story. I had a friend that was really smart, but he was lazy. And all he wanted to do was surf. But he was a genius, so his family kept insisting he goes to school. So he goes to school, gets a PhD, and he convinced the college to give him a PhD in hypnosis. I said, who the hell else in the world can convince a university to give a PhD in hypnosis? And he kept coming to me, he was like a surfer crazy guy. He kept saying, let me hypnotize you. I said, you can't, I'm not hypnotizable. And you're not going to do it. And the last guy in the world I'm going to let hypnotize me is you. So he's nudging me, like for a year and a half. I said, okay, you're going to see, you can't hypnotize me. 5 minutes I'm out like this. The guy was a genius. And it was like, how many of you are old enough to remember summer roller decks we used to have on our desks, so we looked up people's names. So whatever I was, in 30 years old, I'm on this roller decks. And now I'm 29, I'm 28, everything's smooth. I have a really cushy life, but unlike you, I don't have dramatic stories. My parents love me, I love my wife, I love my children, I have a really good life. But here to show you post-traumatic stress. So I get to 16 years old, I'm completely under. It's like I'm in a comatose. And he said, I started to cry so much, and I know this was absolutely true, that I was sobbing like a baby, screaming, crying for an hour. And I got up, my whole shirt was wet, the floor on the side of us were wet, and he said, you cried like a baby. And what happened when you were 16, you said to your father, my father is wonderful, but he didn't understand me at all when I was young. All I was interested in is music and girls. He was very mechanical. He was an architect, he used to run housing and urban development on the East Coast, very much mathematical. I was the opposite. I was very musical and that type of thing. And I went to him when I was 16, and I was stepping up in my mind to say, will you accept me as a man? It was the first breakthrough I wanted to make. And he said, because he was very busy, no. And I must have internalized a no as no, I won't accept you as a man, and what he was saying is, no, I don't have the time to come with you. I suppress that. Now, who would ever think that was a big deal? If you had asked me, I'm either going to shoot you, you're going to tell me the most traumatic thing in your life, you would have shot me, because I couldn't have figured that out. Unless this crazy surfer PhD guy that I knew put me into that. That was post-traumatic stress. Now, maybe it wasn't as tough as you have, but in my life it suppressed me. When I got off that table, it was as if I could almost dance. It was like I was walking on air. So don't think because you haven't been abused or in a war or had some major accident that you can't have these things. So unlocking some of these problems are going to actually resolve your physical diseases sometimes. Not sometimes, but many times.
So post-traumatic stress disorder is damage to the brain, it's a trauma to the brain, it affects the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, the verbal center, and the amygdala, and get stuck in the opposition. And so my question is kind of broader. You can do the therapy, but the brain is still has been traumatized.
Yes.
And the question is, what can you do to support the brain in its
Well, I gave you that answer, and then I was broadening that answer. So the first part is that you can do all the biochemistry in the world, and it's not going to work until you unlock the pattern. The pattern, unlocking the pattern, after you get the brain nourished and the brain flowing, is important. Now, have I seen wild things happen? There was a guy called Dr. Howe, who's in Washington State, that does something called cranial reconstruction. Have I seen that work? Yeah, but it doesn't always work. I say, if you ask me, probably 30% of the time it works, 70% of the time it doesn't. What he does is they have to be geniuses with calculus. They actually measure the brain, where it is, the pressure of the skull on the brain, and they literally put balloons, they look like baby prophylactics up your nose, open them up, and they open the cavity that's in the middle of the brain. I've seen that be very effective. But remember, post-traumatic stress is not always a brain injury from a physical problem. It's a traumatic problem that has happened to a person too. So people in war, as an example, have post-traumatic stress. They've never been injured. So that's it. But you may internalize war differently than I do. To somebody, a bee can come into the room and bite them and traumatize them. To another guy, he could be in a war for 3 years and see everyone shot around him. It took that much to get him to go. So it's unlocking that part of the brain. So you may want to write, and you're in Washington.
Well, I have a therapist in Washington, and I've been doing EMDR for a while. Actually, I've been 5 years. So
Let me write that down for me, and I'm going to call Hal up or Dr. Adair down in Washington, Miami, and see who they know in Washington. Yeah, I used to have a friend in Dr. Lutz that would have been good for. He moved out of there years ago.
What was the doctor in New Jersey? For PTSD. What was his
Oh, we weren't saying New Jersey.
I thought initially-
She's in Washington.
Right, I thought initially you said there was a doctor in New Jersey.
No, not for this. Yes.
yeah, we were talking about curcumin. Now everybody's using it, and I'm just wondering.
Say that again.
Curcumin.
Curcumin. Yeah, we'll get back to that in a minute. Let me come down. Curcumin is a major anti-inflammatory. That's the medicine in turmeric. And we have the strongest one called phytoturmeric.
Yes, but the skin of the turmeric that you put out there, does that have arsenic? Does that have?
Not enough for a white person. The only people that genetically adapted to take small amounts are Eastern Indians. Eastern Indians need small amounts to get big effects. You need massive amounts to get small effects. And so that's why we've got to extract the medicine out of it and give you large amounts to get a small effect. Yes?
Can I just ask you about the brain machine?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Cardiologist in California developed this. It's a unit that they were using for other purposes, and a colleague of mine, a good friend that I trust explicitly, said that he was working with people with pain, and 75% of them, this is like miraculous for them. He lent me the machine. So I, like you, am learning about that as we speak. But I can tell you several people that have used it so far, that's about what we're seeing.
What is that?
It's a new machine that for severe pain, if you have really severe pain, we have in the medical department. So you're like that. See, it's amazing. And it's so simple. See, this is where medicine's got to go. They've got to give up the money.
What's that called?
What it does, I don't even remember what it's called. You put your hand into it, and what it does is bring the blood flow there, recircuit the blood flow. When blood is going to a painful area, it amplifies. So the more blood you have there, the more amplified. This diverts it from the amplification, puts it into the hand, which is where normal circulation for a 10-year-old girl or a 10-year-old boy. Not for a person in pain, and not as we get older. Circulation slows down. And in her case, she's not been on pain meds now. And that's a good sign, right? From one day that happened, that's a damn good sign. I'm happy. So you're one of the 75%. Congratulations. Get over there every time you get a chance. I don't blame you. I'd sleep with that thing if I were you. Yes.
I had a couple questions about the Guardian Miracle. One is it okay to replace a multivitamin pretty much?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, John, I love John, but he gets a little over enthusiastic sometimes. That is a miraculous supplement. The only thing I'm sad about is I had really very little to do with creating that. He created most of it, and I cleaned it up for him. And that was it. It's called Cardio Miracle. Cardio Miracle. And what we did is we got the food into it. It was a chemical, and it had a lot of chemical supplementation. I said, no way am I ever going to tell anyone to take this thing. The core of it's good, but the other stuff is dangerous for you. And so the boy came back. He's a good man. He's a really good guy. I mean, I like this. He's a really nice human being. He's a good person. You know, money's not his first objective, which is interesting. You know, usually when I meet people, most of them it's money. They're for not him. And he came back and he said, "Okay, help." And we worked on it. And then I got other people involved, and Vic helped on it, and it became an excellent product. And we kept tweaking it over about a year and a half. Now, it's called cardio because the overwhelming information and research, empirical evidence on it, shows that it helps to replenish and rebuild the heart. That your heart, literally, the elasticity of the veins, the way the heart pumps, it even helps to reverse potential arrhythmia. great. But man, it does that throughout your body. So good for the ticker, not for you. This would actually amplify your problem until we straighten it out. It wouldn't be a good thing for post-traumatic stress. But that, amazing. I mean, amazing. Victoris called me and said, how can I get more immediately? And I can tell you, I wasn't taking it. I'm like this guy that's giving it out and saying, tell me what it is, collecting data. When I started to take it, I didn't have a problem. Now poor Anna Maria. That's all I can say. This stuff is miraculous. That's all I can say. It's great. And you don't need a lot of it. And why it works, unlike the other nitric oxide I use, the other nitric oxide you'd have to take a massive amount of condensed to get small amounts in you. We married this to food. So now the cell eats it, loves it. So the nutrient, now you're getting, I don't know what the uptake is, but it's got to be 60, 70%, which is amazing.
So, the other question was, when you stir it up in glass, there's like a little residue on the bottom.
Drink it.
Make sure you don't do that.
Yeah, what you're paying for that stuff, you better take the whole thing. That's right. Let me tell you, lick it, get a small cup. Yes. Well, number one, are you married? And is your husband Till of the Hun or conscious? Till of the Hun. That's the problem with most of you women. You married some barbarian that somehow doesn't really get, that he loves the children but he wants to poison them. So the first conversation you have to have in a gentle, maternal, loving way is not you're a bad guy and you're doing the wrong thing, but I know you love my children. Let's hope that's true. I know you love the children, and I love them too. And I've just learned a whole new load of things that I'd like to help. Do you realize that the number one killer of children is cancer? These are the conversations you have. Did you know that? Well, now you're going to know that. Do you know that 79% of the autopsies on people below 16 they have cardiovascular disease? These are real numbers I'm giving you. I'm not making this up as I go along. So if he's a sensible human being, even if he's Till of the Hun, he's going to say, well, gee, I really do love my children. I don't want them to get cancer or heart disease or diabetes. 2 out of 3 people getting type 2 diabetes now are children. Did you know that? Any sensible person should know these things. You didn't know this, and you're, I'm sure, way above the fray when it comes to this. He knows that. Then you're going to say, let me sort of handle the food. We don't want you to have to eat healthy food. We know that you're a man, and men just don't like to do that. But I want to give my children healthy food. And most men, unless they're really, really insecure about their sexuality, will let that happen. If he's really insecure about his sexuality, that's a whole other question. Because when we were men as a boy, the meat industry did such a number on us. Actually, when I chose to be a vegan, I'm thinking, but I like girls, what's wrong with me? That's how in depth it went into my head, if you don't eat meat, you're not a man, kind of thing. And then what they don't realize, the more meat you eat, the more feminine you become. How many of you knew that? Yeah. More meat, because what do they pump into those poor animals? Female hormones, to get them chubby. So if you ever see these bodybuilders eat a lot of meat walking like this, you know why. You always wondered, huh? They're going like this? What's wrong with that guy? Eating a lot of meat. Whole thing's a reverse of what we used to think. Isn't that amazing? And now,